One of the most common things that I find when it comes to my coaching practice is that I see so many people who bring up this idea or this concept of imposter syndrome, whether they have a name for it or whether they don't. Imposter syndrome is one of those things that's real. We all go through it, and we have to understand how it is we can handle it in order to be able to get through it and become someone from it. You see, when you are in a situation where you don't feel like you are qualified, you don't feel like you are the person who should be sitting in the room, and then all of a sudden you start to get that feeling inside, maybe you start to label it as anxiety or stress or whatever it might be, we have to understand when it comes to imposter syndrome, it is totally normal. And the way that I like to explain imposter syndrome is I like to give an example of somebody who works out in the gym. You see, if you're looking to work out your muscles and you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, so those are the weights are going to be the things that are going to help grow your muscles. So even if you're not technically able to lift the weight, the fact that you're getting that pull and that resistance itself is going to allow you to grow your muscles. And the same thing with imposter syndrome, because how does we're supposed to become somebody more when it comes to our own personal development, when it comes to our own essence? And the way that we can do that is by putting ourselves in certain situations that are going to help us grow. And those feelings that we get are that growth. So that's why when we're sitting in a situation where we don't think we're qualified, instead of looking at it the negative that my body is doing something weird and therefore I'm going to stress out about it, it's my body's doing something weird, and guess what? It's just me going to the gym. These are me putting in the reps. I don't feel comfortable. And it's similar why somebody who walks into high school for the first time, they feel so small and insignificant, as opposed to when they're leaving as a senior, they feel like they can walk the halls. And the same thing is happening. When we are freshmen, we feel a major imposter syndrome. But throughout our time in high school, we feel and we get confident just doing the things that we want to be doing. So ask yourself, what is that time that you are putting yourself in a position where you feel uncomfortable? Maybe you're doing some marketing, you're putting yourself live on social media, you're doing something, you're going out, you're engaging with people, and because of that, you feel uncomfortable. But guess what? That is the growth, which is a beautiful frame when it comes to these times that we think we're not capable of. And if we can just make that reframe and understand that that discomfort is the growth, then all of a sudden we have that ability to step into the moment and look to constantly grow. There's never going to be a time that we officially made it. But what we have to understand is that if we want to be able to do certain things in our life, we have this ability that we can start to step into to be able to take advantage of. And what's interesting is so many people feel bad about that feeling. What we have to understand is that's a normal feeling. That discomfort is something that you're supposed to be going through. So you don't want to just be pushing it away. You want to try to embrace it. And if we can start to embrace it, that's when we're going to be able to then look at the positive and say, hey, I'm actually growing in this moment. Unless you're the type of person who says, I don't really feel that feeling so much. So this is where, as a coach, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to push yourself into situations where you do feel it, because that discomfort is you growing. And we all know that we want to become better. We want to be doing more. We want to become the best version of ourselves. And if that's the case, how is it that we're going to get ourselves in those positions, in those rooms, to be able to say, hey, I feel really uncomfortable being here right now, but guess what? I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to become somebody. And maybe it's not during this meeting or this specific experience, but the next one I'm going to get even more comfortable and then more comfortable and then more comfortable. And that's what happens with confidence, because when we want to become more confident in a specific area, and that's where confidence is that we're specifically confident in one area, we have to do the thing over and over again. And that discomfort that we want is the thing that's going to help us become more confident. And one of the frames that I like to use is that instead of feeling uncomfortable in the moment, is that we have to be courageous in the moment. If we can start to be courageous and look to step into the roles, then all of a sudden we have this ability to be doing so much more. So understanding this can be really helpful when it comes to the success that we want. So once we start to recognize, when is it that I can put myself out there? How is it I can put myself out there more to do the reps? Then we have that ability to be growing that muscle internally. What's interesting is a lot of times somebody will be courageous one time, but then the next time they have the opportunity, they're like, I'm good. But once they deny that second opportunity, what they're really doing is they're taking a step back. And I really recommend pushing yourself there a little bit more and saying, you know what, you could do it again and again and again, and to really get comfortable with just raising your hand and just doing it. And once we have that ability, then we have the ability to really step into whichever possibility we want. Because there's so many people that get so scared around the fact that they have to do certain things, and they want to be able to take certain steps, but they're just nervous, they're scared, they don't know what it is that they could be doing. But if we can start getting comfortable, raise your hand and say, hey, I'll be able to do it, then we have this chance to be able to step into the person that we want to become. And that is something that can be so powerful when it comes to the work that we're trying to do. And similar to imposter syndrome, there's impatient. And if you're somebody who's a little bit impatient, make sure to take a look at this next video where we talk about certain techniques that you can start to use to become a more patient person.